Cafe. My name is Belinda Doveston, and it is awesome that you are here with me for our monthly I Ching forecast for April 2026. Here we are. As always, we look back to last month. What were we being asked to pay attention to more than anything else? And we had that Hexagram 49, a revolution, a rapid change, the opportunity to throw off that old skin, make some massive transformative leaps, moving forward into the new, really challenging us to think about where we could take those leaps, where we could break with the past, where we could really just let go of old things, old ways, old ideas, and embrace the new and burst out of that old shell into the new. We also had Hexagram 54, the marrying maiden, telling us that we are on a bigger journey, big cycles of change, getting us into position. If we feel disempowered or not in a position of power or not getting where we want to get, is to think about where you might be in process, where you are being called to trust the process, trust the flow, know that the right thing will come to you at the right time, and that what is really happening is all the pieces are being put into place in the right way to build the right foundation for a future, bigger vision. We had 3 changing lines, lots of action, lots of advice around how to step into this flow of change, of embracing change, and how to throw out the old and embrace the new, but bringing in with the new a new structure, a new order to augment and stabilize that changed energy. And I spoke about the idea that when you have a big revolution in society, what's really important is the revolution is backed by a stable opposition party or a stable energy that comes to bring that in, that comes to lead the people and bring stability as quickly as possible into the new. When you have a vacuum left by one old guard that's thrown over and you have this big empty space, all kinds of weird things can step into that vacuum, and that's when you get more and more chaos. Revolutions just cycle into absolute all-out chaos. So we took charge, we understood the change, we were understanding where the call to change was coming from, and we just trust the process, that we are being guided in the right direction at the right time. If anything came up for you in working with those 2 flows and the changing lines from March, please do share a comment. Always lovely to see those comments. Right, April 2026, let's get into it, and let's get into it rapidly, because our first hexagram for this month, and there are 2 changing lines, is hexagram 42, increase. Rapid acceleration, a big burst of energy. We are not going to get a quiet April. Oh no, we are on a mission. This energy is all about the rapids accelerating, rapidity, the acceleration and intensification of opportunity, energy, expansion, movement, this huge outpouring of energy. Perhaps the revolution and the processes we trusted last month have brought us this gift, right? And we have to treat it as an opportunity to make hay while the sun shines. A wonderful way of understanding this analogy is you're out on a beautiful, gentle kayak and maybe some beautiful glacial river, and you're paddling along, it's very beautiful, and then comes a section of water where there are rapids. Now, this is not like hexagram 29 where we are crashing into the abyss, and we are just hanging in there and going with the flow. This is a woohoo! This is a really wonderful energy to rapidly move through a lot of distance, a lot of stuff, to expand, to go very far in a very short space of time, if we take advantage of it. It doesn't last forever. So in April, we have got to get paddling. Get out those paddles and just go for it, because this energy is wanting to expand and increase and glorify and shine light. This is a really wonderful energy to work with. As we work with this, it also takes courage and the willingness to lean into the flow and to give it horns, not to take your foot off the accelerator. This is not the energy for that. We have to go for it. And we can look back then at the end of April and say, oh my word, we covered a lot of ground and there was a lot of high energy associated with this month. So you do have to do the self-care, bring your nervous systems back down to balance. Okay, find ways of replenishing. But this energy is very exciting, very open, very expanding. And I affirm that wherever you've been wanting and waiting for an opportunity to expand, okay, to stretch out, to be bigger, to embrace a bigger business, a bigger life, more responsibility, and more growth, wherever you're wanting to bring that into your life, certainly by the likes of April, we should get that opportunity. So let's see how that goes. Two changing lines in the 5th and the 6th position. That means they break up April literally into 10-day blocks, okay, into thirds. Our first changing line works in the beginning of the month up until around about the 10th. Then the next one starts building up in energy until around about the 20th. And then we move to the end of April when we get much more of a concentrated view of a second relating hexagram. Use it as a guideline for the month. You might experience all the changing lines come all at once or permanently for the whole month for different issues. Be open. Be open to what the change is wanting to bring to your awareness and focus. In position 5, this is a line of absolute blessing. Okay. Blessing from having done things really well, an increase, a blessing, a bounty that comes if we are of the right mindset. Okay, we care for people, we are humble, we are sincere, we are in our center. Okay, if we can bring ourselves to the moment in that way, to be caring for others, to be humble and sincere, the blessings just come. Okay, so a very powerful energy, particularly strong for us for the first 10 days of the month. Be open to it and see where else it shows up for the rest of the month. But certainly an opportunity for us to be in the right mindset and switch on the lights. The blessings, blessings, blessings. What a beautiful changing line for us. In position 6, this changing line says, as we have been very increased by our journey, okay, we have to think about how we relate to others, right? And how we bring each moment what each moment needs. So what this talks about is not being overly rigid, overly structured, hard with people, okay, is to really be aware of how our behavior impacts other people. And likewise in your team, be aware of how the people in your team impact each other. And there's a wonderful little advice that goes with this one. When we are wise and we've used increased energy well, we know that it's important to rest before we move, that we compose our minds before we speak, and that we have relationships with a situation, with people, before we ask something of those situations. And what it really talks to us about is watching out for our hastiness, ability to push, or being too brusque with people, being too violent in our speech, too demanding in terms of what we're saying to people, and too demanding of the relationships too soon. And there's a wonderful energy here that we can really, if you go and look at the book for this changing line, it's a really wonderful life lesson of understanding that before we move, we must rest. Before we speak, we must compose our minds. And before we ask things of other people, we need to have built a relationship. That third line, I've got a saying that everyone knows. I say you need to make deposits before you can make withdrawals in a relationship. And for me, that's what it is that if you're invested in a relationship, it's something that you can then draw from as a resource, right? But if you have no relationship and you really make demands of that relationship, you'd be surprised what doesn't come back. So a powerful thing that when we've worked through and we've been increased and we've developed this capacity to lead, we need to understand how we interact with people and be in our highest and best in our relationships with others, no matter what our level, no matter what their level. And it's really asking us to pay attention to those things this month. So that's roundabout up to the 20th of April. That leads to a second hexagram, a relating flow, all right? We'll see it start to build up throughout the month, the energy, you'll see it Perhaps you'll see it a lot stronger in that last 10 days of the month because we do have changing lines. And that hexagram is hexagram 24, the return, right? A whole lot of yin lines with a male yang line coming in the bottom, signaling after the dark night, right? The winter of all those dark passive lines, this new energy, this life-giving principle coming back in, bringing in a return of energy, things coming back in, reanimating things and bringing energy back in after a period of stagnation or quiet or difficulty. You know that I talk about the bear starting to move in its cave when it starts to come out of hibernation, and we're not in full summer yet or in high energy, but it's starting to turn. So this energy of particularly this increase, what it brings us, what it moves and evolves into throughout April is this turning point, right? And this increase is pushing, 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 and the expansion is happening, and the opportunities to expand and to include others in our team and to include others in our family and our well-being, really just expand everyone together. With those opportunities come the turning point. We turn the tide on this thing, okay? Wherever we were struggling, something shifts and we start moving in a better direction. It can also mean returning back to something of the past, reigniting something, perhaps even an old relationship, a previous employer. It can be literally going full circle, coming back to where you started, but in a new way. But there's a process here, an energy that we turn the tide. Whatever has been difficult, we turn the tide on this thing. And maybe this rapid increase and the paddling like crazy and the culmination of a whole lot of things that have been happening through the I Ching over several months, this turning point comes and we start to see the light coming back in. A powerful combination of energy. We are not restive this month. We are active, we are doing, we are paddling. Really just seize the moment, carpe diem, right? Seize the moment and seize the energy that's there. You can rest later. Let's see what happens in May. Maybe we get a very quiet month in May. Who knows? Probably not. But let us just put the energy in because there's such a wonderful opportunity to expand this month in whatever level you are needing expansion. And perhaps that revolution and that snake skin shedding process we were going through last month has allowed us to put down the shell of the past, to let go of things that were too tight, too restrictive, too old, right? Old systems, old ways, old thinking, and break out of that and try new things. And through this trying new things, we come into this acceleration and this expansion because now there's space to grow. I always have the saying that if you're not getting your result that you want in a particular area of your life, whether it's relationships, finance, money, whatever it might be, is that the container is too small, right? Things have been filled in, the bounty has come in, but now we've got to a point where the container is too small. And the only way we can contain a bigger energy is by having a bigger container. And that means throwing off, like the hermit crab, throwing off the old container and going finding a new, bigger container that's going to help us grow for the next phase. Inhabiting that, even if it feels a bit roomy and rattly to start with, and now the energy can come flow in. So wherever you are feeling energy where you're stuck or you're limited or you haven't been able to move the needle on something, have a look. Is there some kind of restriction, a structure, a mindset, a process, a limitation that is preventing you from getting more? In business, that might mean, what is the restriction on new customers coming in, new sales coming in? Can you handle more customers and more sales? And if you can't, that's what you have to solve. You have to increase your capacity. This is the hexagram. Increase what you can do. Expand what you can do. Get a bigger container. A hermit crab does not live in one container forever. It goes and seeks the next best container when this container is done its job. It doesn't have to be the forever container. It just has to be fit for purpose. So wherever you're finding that in your work, in your personal life, where you're feeling that's restriction, think about being a hermit crab and increasing your capacity to love, to live, to be well, to thrive and be prosperous. We are shedding the skin last month, right? Our old ideas about the container are gone. Now we need to go and find the container and expand into it and do it, because the tide has turned and the new energy is coming. Thank you so much for being here with me. If you would like to give a thumbs up or a like if you enjoyed this episode and was valuable to you, that'd be really great. And of course, if you're new to the channel, you know what to do. Subscribe, hit all the bits and the bobs, and you'll get the episodes straight into your app as they go live. And I look forward to working through April with you week by week. Let's see where the energy takes us for our weekly forecasts. But good luck for April. Just enjoy it and go for the ride and just go for it. Just be in the moment and paddling like hell. Okay. I'll see you soon.